All that panel, I thought it was, Maya did a fantastic job, as well as, Allison, some great comments from the rest of the panelists as well. And side jobs, definitely looking forward to hearing more about it, Mukta. I think it's
We're super excited.
Very excited to see that announcement as well. Definitely, this panel is, focused on cyber capacity, right? How do we build capacity in an environment where there is a really good opportunity to fill demand where there is a need. I think Allison said business leaders find this to be one of the most concerning areas as they're attending this event at the WEF here this week. I saw a data point from IC that says there is an opportunity to grow, I think it's 145% to meet the demand of cyber talent. Now, the question is this going to be filled by academia, or can other folks in the industry, government, as well as academia participate and fill this need globally as well? So, looking forward to hearing from this distinguished panelist. And we'll do some introductions. I'm MJ Vaidya. I'm a partner with EY, but also an adjunct professor at NYU. Education is a big topic for me. I'm very passionate on that topic, so would love to talk to you about it afterwards as well. Let me pass it on to Tom.
Hi everybody, thanks MJ. I'm also thrilled to be here. Davos 2020 is shaping up to be a great week, and the Cyber Future Forum is just a fantastic place to really have active discussions. I was talking last night that you get as much in the room as on the stage at this conference, and that's not generally the case. So really looking forward to today, and thank you. I'm the Chief Trust Officer for Unisys, which builds and operates much of the world's critical infrastructure. And I've also, for the last 2.5 years, been assigned to the White House to work on their national cyber moonshot plan, which is a 10-year plan to look at how to make the internet safe and secure to support critical infrastructure in the US. And I'm here this week talking with a variety of groups to talk about how to take that around the world, since critical infrastructure is a globally shared concern.
Thank you.
Thanks, MJ. Mukta Pandit, and this is my first Davos, so I'm super excited to be here. I am a founder of SciJobs, and then also have ran Safal Partners, which is an education and workforce consulting firm for the last 10 years. Prior to that, I was with the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation, helped launch the India office, and formerly was with McKinsey before that.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Diana Burley. I am a professor at George Washington University in Washington, D.C. I am also the executive director of a research institute there, Cybersecurity Research Institute, called the I3P, where we focus on critical infrastructure protection, risk, strategy, topics related to cybersecurity. And my real deep area of expertise, where I've been working for probably 20 years, is on cybersecurity education, workforce development, and capacity building. So I am delighted to be here, and any time that we can bring academia, industry, and government together, it is a good day, because that's the way that we will be able to move this forward.
Again, good morning to everyone. I'm Fred Lonchi. I'm from Italy. I'm playing the double role here as a university professor in computer science and secretary of the Medici framework. There's a kind of branch supported by the European Commission, working originally in the field of education and culture, by chance, and now, since 15-20 years, working on the field of ICTs for safety and security, with a specific focus on e-services, so the way to protect and secure such kind of field. Of course, this organization for quite a long time used to work with the UNESCO, dealing with the impact of cyber society and ICTs on people and communities, and so we'll probably talk later about this specific aspect. Okay. So thank you.
Great, thank you everyone. Actually, great to have you guys all here, and I'm sure everyone will be very interested to hear your thoughts here. I, like Maya, will be trying to hold myself back from my own thoughts on this topic because it's very exciting to get involved in this, but let me get right into it. Cybersecurity, we say cyber, but the previous panel was also risk, right? So the talent need in this area is not just technical security. There's a need for risk professionals, there's a need for incident responders, there's a need for governance professionals, various different types of professionals. So as you think about the workforce, the first question I would ask for this panel is, what are the top challenges? Why are we seeing such challenges with generating a workforce in this space? Tom?
I think it's a great lead-off question for this. And I look at workforce development as one of those critical path items. We need new technology, we need different things, but we need a workforce that we can trust. And so when I worked on the National Cyber Moonshot these last couple of years for the White House, we had education being one of the 6 pillars that needed to change dramatically. And we bifurcated education, so it's not just the workforce, the people building the technology and operating the technology in a secure way, but we looked at it as the users needed substantially increased cyber education. So if you're learning to be a pipe fitter or an artist or anything, the cyber education's got to come part of that. In order to be a citizen in this day and age and in the coming generations, you're going to need so much more. So reaching out both at the user, the everyday person, cyber education changing, and then at the top, and that's where we need to really rethink the way we're doing this. The standard 4-year college is the only path forward. It's just not going to cut it. There's 9 billion plus people on this planet. We need all of them to be participating in a more secure future, and that's what I think education's role is to play.
Thank you, Tom. And as this goes along, one of the things we do at NYU is also bring in high schoolers into the program. Would love to get your thoughts on when you think about middle schoolers, high schoolers. Is that an opportunity to start developing the workforce at that level? And of course, not going to the jobs, but you're starting to build that talent pool right from that onwards. Mukta, let's start there.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's true. I mean, honestly, it's not just true for cybersecurity, it's true for all workforce development. You have to lay the seeds earlier, and it could be at a middle school level, you're just getting them exposed to different interests, and you're getting them exposed to what different occupations are around. Actually, for the state of Texas, we ran a Jobs Y'all campaign, because of course it's Texas, so it was y'all. And it was meant to target young adults, like 14 to 24-year-olds. Like, how do you get them the information about the different career options? How do you get them interested? How do you get them excited? And they don't want to look at a lot of data, but maybe it's much more visual, it's much more social media friendly. I mean, like, it's a lot of like getting them interested at the grassroots level, and then at each stage, you're moving to the next level before you can get them into a career. And you're right, it doesn't have to be a standard 4-year college degree. It could take a variety of paths.
Diana, from an academic perspective, but also your background is a lot broader than academic. Would love to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, and I want to pick up on what both Tom and Mukta have said, because yes, we need to begin earlier, but part of the challenge is that we really have to recognize that we are in the midst of a paradigm shift. I mean, cybersecurity as the fundamental driver of the way that we as a society function and operate means that we have to think about this differently, and not just segmenting off and saying, here's this group of cybersecurity professionals, right? But to really think about it, and when I talk to people, I say, let's think about the way that we educate our children. Everyone, I'm from America, so English, right? But everyone learns how to speak the language. Everyone learns basic math and science and things that they need in order to function as contributing members of the society. We have to begin thinking that way about cybersecurity. And then when we think specifically about those individuals who will be on the front lines, we have to begin to define the workforce in much more specific terms so that we can actually help people understand what it means to become a cybersecurity professional, because it means very different things. It could mean a pen tester, a technical person. It could mean a risk person, right? And anything in between.
So is that a challenge, and as think about Alfredo as well, is there a need for some sort of a common standard to build the talent pool, or can globally different governments, different universities just do their own thing? Any thoughts on that?
Yes, if I can to step back a little bit to what Val told before about the initiative within the WISES.
Yeah.
I think there's a real need to start from the beginning, so from pupils, trying to educate them and basically to create awareness about potential risk in the use of the technology nowadays. Of course, there's not much more a cyber risk like the one we are dealing today. Even if I remember one of my students, she was a lady playing with a hotel, and some hackers had hacked all the belongings within the virtual city. And she was really, really bad for this because they hacked the furniture, all the things she bought, working a lot. But of course, this is about, let's say, computer games. I think there's a need to do this at the different stages. At the university level, still we have people that use technology, but they are not really aware about the risks. And that's the reason why we will, I think we'll talk later about the initiative within the WISES in order to build up this specific curriculum. Because in Europe, we did some 20 years ago, the CDL, so the European driving license for computers, but this was focused basically on Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Nothing at all about cybersecurity, about privacy, about the basic rules, to survive on the internet. But sorry, I
No,
took too much time.
I think this is great. I mean, this is all great, right? Because if you look at the last, and I'll just say last 15, 20 years, right? This area is evolving. Whether security, risk, you mentioned privacy just now, academia is what we just talked about. But is it enough? I mean, this problem is evolving day to day. You need, obviously there are the classic skills of pen testing, threat detection, incident responders. But what are we missing? This is a pretty, ongoing problem. And I guess, where does the industry play in this? Yeah, I mean, there are private sectors and the governments that are facing this problem all the time. And I know from a university perspective, that's not something that's going to be enough. So pivoting to, well, what can industry do to help build the workforce? But also, there's a lot of workforce out there that has great skills, right? Development, non-cyber and risk areas. How can we retool those people to get into this space? Why don't we start with you, Alfred?
So, the point is, if I consider our students, let's use the hat of the professor there. So, it seems that there's not a real appeal on this topic at the university level. So, students prefer to choose other addresses that are much more directly connected with some earnings, some good positions. I don't speak basically about computer games, but nowadays big data analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence are much more appealing for them. Even because at the level of small medium enterprises, people working in the field of cybersecurity is considered a pure cost if nothing bad happens. Once there's PayPal, there's WannaCry or such type of crisis, or the old Millennium Bug, they start to say, oh, this is something really crucial for us. But after this scare, this concern, again, they're pure costs, so they will not invest, and the career is in some way blocked for them. And this, I think, is the reason why it's not so appealing to work in this field.
That's interesting because, I mean, obviously, I would love to get, maybe I start with Tom as well, just in terms of, I think the opportunity involved in this space, continued learning in cyber is significant. And in terms of, comp and all those kinds of things, it's a pretty decent space for somebody to go into and evolve in this area as well. In addition to things like analytics and other areas where there's growth as well. Tom, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's important that we don't try and assume that cyber education is one thing, one size fits all.
That's right.
In the cyber moonshot pillar in education, we use the phrase K through grade. The cyber education needs to change dramatically from the very earliest to the very oldest humanity around the world. but it's definitely not one size fits all. You don't want to teach quantum resistant encryption techniques to someone who's learning how to use an iPhone. But you do want to teach someone who's learning how to use an iPhone how to do that securely and what privacy really means, and how to make good choices out there. It's lacking on both sides, and I think that there's a role to play. I worry, though, when we talk about the cyber education plan, because it's very different at the university level, at the more application level, and the jobs level. Absolutely, there's great career paths if people want to go into that, but to work, we need so much more. We need the users to be cyber educated. We need the next generation to be cyber educated, to teach us. We need to be listening to that next generation. You know, we see them using games, but we don't gamify. You know, those kinds of learnings, it's incumbent upon us, while we still have the control stick, to really take advantage of that and make sure that we're doing a service for the world.
So if I can just comment on two of the questions. The first was the question about standards. And that's a very dangerous word, particularly in such a complex field, because we people have a tendency to try to simplify things as much as we can. And when we institute standards, particularly when we're talking about higher education, which is very, very slow to change, when you institute standards and then those standards are set, it's very difficult to make adjustments. So we have to be very careful, and one of the things that I spent the last several years working on was a global set of curricular guidelines for academic institutions that would allow for some guidance, but also flexibility, and create a model so that institutions can create the types of programs that they think most resonate with their stakeholders. And so that leads me to the very quick second point, and that is, you know, when we start talking about the relationship between academia and industry, and this question of why are students choosing not to go into cybersecurity but going into data analytics or artificial intelligence, or in many respects, they are being driven by what they see as very specific requirements in jobs and what jobs are available in their areas. And so we have to be very vigilant as colleagues across the sectors to make sure that we're communicating properly what those job opportunities are, and that we are properly aligning them, because when there is that disconnect and that mismatch, we find that students and professors tend to direct students in other ways, and then we end up with an exacerbated workforce.
Just one quick follow-up question. So is that, do you think maybe that's happening, is it not happening today, or does the industry need to do specific things to help make that happen?
We need to do a better job. Industry needs to do a better job. And I'll give you an example, and this is probably from maybe 3 or 4 years ago, when there was a lot of discussion around secure coding. And why aren't academic institutions teaching secure coding? There are no, there was this big news article about the major computer science programs, and there were no courses in secure coding, right? But when we did an analysis, and some colleagues and I did an analysis of HR ads, position descriptions, job ads, where they listed out the desired skill sets, none of them had secure coding. And so when you're trying to convince academic institutions to teach something, you have to let them see that that something is actually a job requirement. And I don't think it was because it wasn't something that industry wanted. There was just a disconnect in the way that we communicate with each other to enable the changes that we need to see.
There's a great program now that Aspen Institute started last year that they're encouraging companies to relook at their boilerplate in their jobs.
Yes.
And because it's just so automatic now in companies, just hit the boilerplate. It's somebody in HR, a low-level recruiter, take the old boilerplate, put it in, and put in the 3 sentences that are different. And that's been excluding so many good candidates. It's not getting the right words. So they're challenging companies to go through every cyber job listing they have. And Unisys did this last year, and it was eye-opening. And so now we're getting a much better targeted set. We're not asking for advanced degrees if the job doesn't require advanced degrees. We're asking for specific skills that we need and avoiding ones that we don't need. We're getting a much better targeted thing. So I really applaud Aspen Institute and what they're doing there. And it's something that I think every company can go ahead and do on their own.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you, Tom. And as a CISO, Tom, you obviously have a ton of folks that are in this space.
I'm the Chief Trust Officer.
Chief Trust Officer, how could they help get more integrated into the industry to help drive more education in this space?
Improve awareness and knowledge in the young generation and in general communities, specifically because now we are going toward smart cities, smart everything, smart fridge, smart, and so the risk to be trapped by hackers is very high, so we don't want to be kidnapped by the elevator in some science fiction in the US. We saw the movies that similar things, or to get bankrupt because our fridge will order tons of food by its own self. On the other side, of course, at the university level and within companies, we have to provide a better, let's say, overview about the potentiality of this specific career. This is for sure good in the at least in my university. People is not very interested in choosing this specific sector, apart to become a hero because they solved a big problem like the viruses I mentioned before. And within companies, again, there's not a clear vision about the progression of the career work in that field. So we need probably to improve and to provide the support in order to increase the skills in order to keep the pace of the cyber criminals that continue to be one step forward usually. So
thank you.
Yeah, I think it's really relevant, this topic.
Thank you, Alfredo. And I know we're running short on time. Any questions from the panelists? Pavan, let's start with you.
Sure. Thank you for an excellent panel. Pavan Dubru from India. We've been doing work in cyber capacity building. We've created an online university called the Cyber Law University. And in 2 years, we've reached out to 14,600 students from 163 countries who've done our courses. Quick question. I've come across this mindset where people are looking for branding in capacity building. Therefore, the need for accreditation and the need for standard building in cyber capacity building assumes more significance. But at a global level, one fails to find out any standard accrediting bodies specifically in this regard. The thoughts of the panel.
So there is one new accreditation. It's ABET, has an accreditation in cybersecurity programs, and it's built on the cybersecurity curricular guidelines that my task force developed, and it is a global accreditation.
How do you spell that?
ABET is A-B-E-T. It's the accreditation board for engineering and technology. But if you go to abet.org, you will see the accreditation there, and you can actually go in and look at the criteria.
I worry though about standards not keeping up with technology, the pace of technology. There are standards that will say you're a certified COBOL programmer today, and people still go get them.
Yes.
All the Cisco standards, not to pick on Cisco, they had that great training for so long, but companies became sort of dependent on it. As long as it says CCIE, you're good, and maybe not. That doesn't really help in a 5G world, does it? So, I like standards. I think standards are useful, but if they can't keep pace, they may do more harm than good.
Just make a quick comment, and it's a good question. I think even the side jobs is aligned with the NICE framework, National Institute for Cybersecurity Education. But I agree with this as well, that it's also the standards have to evolve with the world itself in terms of digital technology and other areas as well. Please. That's to you.
Thank you. So we used to live in the world where children would pick up safety habits from their parents. Out across the street safety, wash your hands before you eat, don't talk to strangers. We kind of got to the world where parents are actually cyber illiterate, and they can't really teach their children. So that, to me, is the next or existing vulnerability to the cyber world. Much more than corporations. They download apps, they do all sorts of things that parents can't even advise them. Any thoughts around this? I know we talked a lot about the global workforce, but that's the future workforce.
And one quick comment, please. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a quick comment. Back to the WISES. So starting from the last year, we suggested to the ITU and WISIS to have a specific session in order to train seniors in this specific sector. And so this year we will have on April a full day, not a full day, 4 hours course addressed to seniors. And then I don't know if the ITU will probably put online or publish a kind of online course in order to provide the basics for seniors in order then to train pupils and avoid to be in some way cut out from let's say, the society in terms of not receiving some feedbacks from the government or to be able to properly use home banking and similar things. So this is the aim of this activity.
Good. Thank you, Alfredo. We have to close the panel, unfortunately, so if there are questions, let's catch it. Oh, go ahead. One quick question.
Yeah. So my question dovetails off of the prior one in that it's not only just parents, but professionals. I mean, we're seeing cyber risks and issues across all industries amongst professionals. And I know for a fact in the legal profession, they lag behind. Lawyers, practicing lawyers, we're talking about doctors. What efforts are being undertaken to almost make cybersecurity a part of the continuing legal as well as medical education that already exists?
I can make a comment on that. Yeah, and then we can just close it out. And we can close it out quick, 30 seconds, but 10 seconds on that. We are building classes, even at NYU. I built a class for the law school last year. And there's more of that happening because this is not limited to technology or cybersecurity professionals. It's growing beyond this space. With that, one request on my side, we'll do 30-second closeouts here. But get involved with academia or outside of your industry, of your full-time jobs, and see how you can help out to grow the capacity. Tom.
Yeah, just real quick on your point. So when we did in the Moonshot, I mentioned we broke it up into 6 different pillars. One was education, another one was behavior and behavioral modification. And how do we use mass media? How do we use gamifying? How do we use all sorts of the real world to try and change the risky behaviors and make it more useful, better for everybody. So definitely a parallel, related and adjacent issue, but a parallel issue in our perspective. I do want to mention real quick on cyber education. And here at Davos 2020, I wanted to be able to announce officially for the first time that workshop will take place at Carnegie Mellon University in the beginning of April in 2020. And if you're interested, if anyone's interested, send an email to info@nationalcybermoonshot.org. And we'd love to have as diverse and as open and as global participation as possible.
There you go. Great. Mukta, quick 20 seconds.
20 seconds. So we're trying to build something that's market-driven, future-focused, framework-based, broad-based recruitment with like a combination of technical and soft skills. I would love to get input from all of you. So if you can, either through the website or contacting me after.
What's that website again?
Cyjobs.global, and there is an employer and sponsor and candidate, please, and just give us your information. We'll set up individual conversations. We really want it to be driven by you all, and so we'd love your input.
Thank you. Thanks, Diane.
I would just thank you for having us, for having this discussion, for you all paying attention and listening to us, and encourage collaboration across the globe, across the sectors, and I'm happy to talk to anyone after this.
Thanks. Closing out with Alfredo, last but not least.
Last, I think it's relevant to enlarge a little bit the focus to the overall risk assessment using such kind of technologies. I don't speak about to talk too much to Alexa or to use your camera, share your picture with unknown people. But anyway, I think a better knowledge about the correct behavior using technology is really a requirement. I saw so many young people providing critical information or personal information for a free job to download the last application or to open access to their own micro or camera, and this I think is quite dangerous. Okay. So thank you for inviting me to this panel. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you all. This is another great panel. So we take a quick